No ring, no rules. You already know the code. Stepping clean. Leave louder. No ring, no rules. We make our own way. No ring, no rules. Legend starts today. No ring, no rules. Watch us take the crown. No ring, no rules. We don't back down. Lights off, name on, pressure in the room. Cold eyes, sharp grin, big talk, sealed doom. We came built for it, heavy in the chest. Every line hits hard, every move say less. Hear that hush now, that's the room goes still. One breath, one spark, then we break the seal. No ring, no rules. We make our own way. Legend starts today. No ring, no rules. Watch us take the crown. No ring, no rules. We don't back down. No script, only nerve and steel. No leash, no chain, only what is real. From the first word out to the final roar. If you want a war, we give you more. No ring, no rules. We make our own way. No ring, no rules. Legend starts today. No ring, no rules. Watch us take the crown. No ring, no rules. We don't back down. No ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to episode 6 of No Ring, No Rules podcast. And, you know, there's a thing that I just saw that I definitely need to bring to the table because, you know, I'm a huge fan of this company. And I don't think that this is right in my eyes, that this is a great business investment. And before I bring in DJ Chaotic, I'm going to get some stuff off my chest. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but you got OVW, which is Ohio Valley Wrestling, which, by the way, if you've not checked into that, let me summarize that for you. That is a wrestling school for legends that's already been there. You know, you have stars like Cody Rhodes. You have stars like CM Punk. You had stars like Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Batista, John Cena. You know, the list goes on in that wrestling school. So now, here's how they thought, okay? Here's what the rumor is, and, you know, I've read this on a couple of Facebook things, that now OVW is working with TNA. Hold the phone. Okay? That is a bad business decision, first of all. We are seeing what TKO is doing with WWE. And if you're going to allow OVW to work with TNA, and you know that TNA is working with WWE, how is that going to help you in the long run? Because there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about during this discussion. So before we start this, guys, I want to bring DJ Chaotic here. And I don't know if you know DJ Chaotic, that I just saw not moments ago, one of my favorite wrestling companies that I've watched, Ohio Valley Wrestling, is now sharing a network with TNA. And we know TNA is working with WWE, that is TKO. This is bad news for people that's loved OVW wrestling.
And here's the crazy thing about it, though. If you were that cautious about these moves, TNA, and you know the price that comes when you're working with WWE, don't you know TKO is going to stick their nose in something that doesn't belong and try to feed themselves even more greed and more ruined opportunities for individuals?
We're going to get back in topics. We'll talk about that later on the podcast. But the first topic,
I'm just saying, like, the whole merger, the whole thing that you just mentioned with the OVW and all that is kind of real skeptical to tell, because of that partnership that WWE and TNA has.
Now, here's the thing that I'm going to say about this TNA working with OVW. Developmental is back. The wrestling landscape just shifted its gears. It's officially a done deal. TNA Wrestling and Ohio Valley Wrestling are partnering up. The OVW is essentially becoming the official developmental system for TNA. To kick off the partnership, TNA streamed OVW's Independence Day for free on TNA. For longtime fans, this brings a massive nostalgia. OVW was a legendary breeding ground that gave WWE the class of 2002. You know, names I mentioned. I didn't get to mention Brock, but I mentioned John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, then Brock Lesnar. Al Snow's leadership under, OVW and TNA president Carlos Silva's vision, OVW is going to be a pipeline building for the Anthem AMC era of TNA. With TNA already trading heavily talent with WWE NXT, this adds an whole new layer to the wrestling ecosystem. Question for the fans and also, for us. The first question I want to get off for us, and including you fans, it's whether you're in live chat, whether you are in the comment section after we go off air, please, feel free to answer these questions.
Keep feeding in
you on this. But the first question
on the topic.
Yes, definitely agree with you there, DJ. But the first question is for us, also for you guys as fans, is do you think a dedicated developmental territory is exactly what TNA needs to build their next generation or homegrown main eventers? And DJ, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to answer that. And then if you guys in live chat are listening right now, feel more free to type in the live chat or maybe in the comment section. But DJ, you got the floor.
I mean, it helps the process more fluently, try to pick and choose who's the top tier guys, who needs a little work, who needs to drop down for some work. I mean, it all kind of fits the narrative and the system that you want for your company. At the same time, how are you going to develop these people to get them better, and what trainers are you going to bring in that's going to help that process grow? That kind of all kind of culminates in what you got coming to the main roster.
So I'm making sure DJ answered this question before I move it on to myself. So if DJ, if you answer that question.
Yeah, I guess it did pretty good.
So, in other words, do you think a dedicated developmental territory is exactly what TNA needs to build their next generation of homegrown main eventers?
Yes,
Well-
I think it helps.
Well, I'm gonna half agree with DJ and half disagree with this, because first of all, look who TNA is siding with. Okay, like, I get it that OVW is wanting to work with these different companies, and as a business decision, you got to look at this on the positive side compared to the negative side. The positive side of this is TNA and WWE is going to take probably OVW's talent, and I don't know how they are going to how do I say this? I don't know how they are going to literally make it known to them, but at the same time, I will say this: answering this question, do I think developmental territory is what TNA needs to build their next generation of homegrown main eventers? Going to start with the negative first. The negative side of this is I don't think that TNA needs to take OVW. OVW is a very good company. It does not need to be in with the TKO leech. I mean, that's just, my thoughts. But at the same time, as a business decision, I understand what they did as a business decision. So getting into the business aspect of this, they are basically, it's kind of like, bringing in more people to train, to be wrestlers, to be main eventers, future main eventers, whatever the case may be. They training them up, telling the story, bringing their story over to TNA. TNA, they decide who they want on the roster. They pull from all that roster list, or, that roster that they have in OVW. They take maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 superstars. I'm just saying, pull them over to TNA, let them work out in TNA and build them over TNA. And we saw what happens with TNA, matter of fact. And, 2 of my favorite wrestlers from TNA, you look at Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace. WWE took 2 world champions, by the way, 2 world champions of that company, and you see what they're doing with them now. And it breaks my heart seeing that TKO is having WWE to work with these people, and then when they bring these guys up to WWE, it's like they don't even have nothing good for them. It's like,
big facts.
You literally take a YouTuber, but you won't fire him because he's got all those views, right? He's got all that money. But you fire people that has worked and grind for the business for years, that knows wrestling, that's worked in indies and worked their way up, but you don't fire a YouTuber. There is something valuable wrong with that picture, if you catch my drift.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying. But getting back on that question, with TNA working with OVW to upgrown main eventers, it's a good thing, and then it's also a bad thing. The bad thing is WWE is going to leech off and pull what they always pulled. Give us garbage. There's things that I'm going to talk about that we're talking about later on in this podcast. But what I'm trying to say is there's good and bad things of TNA getting OVW to be their developmental territory. To me, as a fan, I don't think that was a necessary movement as business judgment by OVW doing this. Even though, yes, they're getting TNA to free stream on their Independence Day Rage, but at the same time, you got to think about this. I don't really think that this is going to help them in the long run, because you got to look at 2 reasons why. One, you're looking at this from a different standpoint, and to me, it's really come down to the big question here. Why does TKO want TNA to have OVW in their pocket? That's one question I want to ask to the fans, also to me and DJ, and also to everybody that is watching. That's one. Two, why do you think TKO is pulling this card when you know TKO's in debt with UFC and they using WWE as a money grinder just to get him out of debt? And this is what really hurts, WWE in the long run. Working with TNA and getting their stars to come to WWE NXT, there's actually a problem with that. I kind of feel that when you do this and you take stars from TNA that's worked their way to OVW and has been around the wrestling business and the industry and worked in the indies and worked hard to get what they owed, they put their body on the line. They are, fatigued. They're sore. You ever heard the old saying, blood, sweat, and tears? They put blood, sweat, and tears in the business. And you literally don't pull anybody from the indies. You take people that's like these YouTubers that's, big franchise names on YouTube, and you put them in a wrestling ring. First of all, to me, that's disrespectful because, if I was, had an opportunity to get a WWE shot, and I know, this is for example, but if I know that I was going to get a WWE shot and you decide to take a YouTuber before you take somebody in the indies, that's disrespectful in a way, because first of all, these guys in the indies bust their ass to even make it to OVW, bust their ass to make it to TNA. Right. They didn't have to go on YouTube and pull some video game shit or, pull this, what they call them, influential stars or whatever they call them, right, on YouTube. They didn't have to do that. They went and grind. They went and put in their work on their gimmicks, on their wrestling, by basically getting in debt, going to wrestling school, paying for wrestling school, working jobs like Walmart until that's paid off so they can move up the ladder. You take guys from, that's been in the indies, compare them to guys like on YouTube, Logan Paul. I mean, first of all, TKO, what are you thinking when you have Logan Paul that's done YouTube, done nothing for the business, had a couple matches with Seth Rollins, had a couple matches here, you put him through the Performance Center, good and great, but here's where I look at that. If he's going to join the wrestling business, I don't care if he is a celebrity or not. Let him work through the rankings. Let him go down to these other companies. Let him go down to, a small town company and work his way up. Don't treat him indifferent from stars that's already worked their name up and got their name up in the business that has busted their ass over these years. I know some good people in the wrestling business that deserve that shot. One of my good friends, Kerry Morton, son of Ricky Morton, WWE Hall of Famer, he deserves that. He's worked his ass off to get where he is. You take a good look at one of my other good friends that I've got to literally not really work with, but also got to share the locker room with. Shane Douglas, the franchise. Even though Shane Douglas has, not done this YouTube stuff, not, like Logan Paul, but he's been in the business. He's grinded in the business. He's went to WWE, ECW, WCW. I mean, this guy's pretty much worked in all three companies. And yes, he may not be an WWE champion, but he's won the Intercontinental title. I do know. He's won the ECW World Heavyweight title. I do know. Matter of fact, if you check your local listings for a history of the NWA's title, Shane Douglas has been a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. If you guys catch my drift and you want wrestling knowledge, go back and look at the NWA title. Go back and look the famous promo where he throws the NWA title in the trash can to bring out ECW. That is where your stars are at, building up in the indies, not some fucking YouTube channel that, you know, gets a shot at the WWE Performance Center because he makes his big money, because he's all, you know, influential. I get it. You want the views. Congratulations, you know. But at the same time, if he wants to join the wrestling business, let him work like the others. Let him go down and see how hard it is to grind, how hard it is to put on, you know, a show for local people and making that name up. Don't just hand him a shot because he's a big name on YouTube. Let him be treated as one of these indies guys that you want to go the business. Here's what route we'll take. Here's what route we need to go. That way he can learn his wrestling, whether it's gimmicks, storylines, and he could possibly be a better wrestler. He's got money. He can pay for wrestling schools. He's got money. He can pay for those road trips. It's not going to hurt him in the long run. But you keep doing this to people, and especially these poor people like myself and, you know, all these other people that's down here that are grinding, and you basically throw them in the dirt for what? Because you see it fit that you want a YouTuber on your show that's, I mean, what has Logan Paul done, first of all? What has Logan Paul done?
Exactly.
That's made WWE what it is today. What has Logan Paul done besides kissing Triple H's and TKO's ass? I mean, I'm being straight up honest. Logan Paul's nothing. He needs to be out of the business. He's not good for the business. If you want to take somebody in the wrestling company, look at the NWA stars. I think his name's Thrylis Mason. NWA World Heavyweight
I will have to look that name up.
NWA World Heavyweight Champion. That man deserves a shot at WWE.
Here's my thing with this whole situation that you just brought up, CJ, and I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Hold on,
here's the thing. How do you go and take a boxer who built the YouTube channel and turn him into a wrestling sensation overnight? You can't do that overnight.
I mean, you can't. But going back to that question is, with building homegrown main eventers, the wrestling business is not an easy business to be a part of. You got to put in your work. You got to put in your grind. And it's not something that you can just sleep overnight and basically wake up the next day and say, I'm this big time wrestler. Look at me. No, there's been guys that has worked in the indies that has got a chance to be NWA stars or got a chance to be WWE stars. And there's guys to this day that still works in the indies, wanting a shot to be NWA, wanting a shot to be WWE, but never gets that opportunity because they have done the same thing as the others, worked hard and busted their ass, but the opportunity wasn't given. That's what I'm trying to say with that question. And I know that question was a little bit out there, but you know what I think of TNA needs to build their next generation of homegrown main eventers. I don't think that TNA needs to look at OVW. I think WWE knows that OVW is a easy pick and they can get anybody they want. But at the same time, if you're OVW, I would not work with these companies. That's just me. That's just how I think that it should be done. I don't think they need to work with TNA and WWE. WWE, their product is
falling flag.
It's in the words of Kevin Impact, it's trash. You know, we saw this with Saturday Night's Main Event.
Let's just put it like this. WWE is going down the road.
Hold on. Let me put it in perspective that way you guys can understand here. This thing right here with TNA pulling OVW, OVW has worked hard to build talent, has worked hard to make stars. And you're just allowing TNA to pull stars just for WWE NXT. I get it. It's a business decision. But at the same time, the thing that I don't get and I don't appreciate and I don't value about NXT is one simple thing. why are you and WWE in general, which is Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, all a part of WWE, why are you guys allowing to take talent from TNA, take talent from OVW, and have your stars to come in NWA, because you can't pull the talent that is necessary for this action, because you have to literally pick for dear love of God. I mean, I get it that people, are like, well, some people may love Logan Paul, some people may hate him. I don't know, but I'm just saying this. Logan Paul does not need to be in WWE. He's done boxing. He's done all of this. He needs to be out. Give somebody that's worked in the indies a chance to shine. Don't give it to somebody that's been on YouTube and pulls out these higher numbers off their ass. If you really want to build a wrestling company, if you really want to build the passion of wrestling again, WWE, get somebody from the indies that's grind and work their ass off. Even people that's been away from their families that don't even get to see their families because they put in the work, because the business that they love and the business that they know that, they have to leave their families just to do this so they can entertain people around the world. And it may not be around the world. It may be like in the United States. You may have to travel to one show in Kentucky, then one show to Tennessee, then one show straight up to Ohio, then south to Georgia, and then you got to go all the way to the west to California. I'm just saying this in general. WWE, NXT, Raw and SmackDown, and also TNA. I don't think OVW was a smart move on this decision, but I'm going to move on to the next question. And I think DJ's going to like this next question. Huge shout out to KJ in the chat. Thank you for coming in, brother. I'm definitely going to say this here on this question, DJ, and you can answer this. I'll let you go first, and I'll answer this. With TNA working with NXT and owning OVW, does this make TNA the ultimate melting pot for young talent right now?
In my opinion, it ain't even about the talent in general. It's about literally the distance that I've been seeing, the lack of TNA being utilized in WWE as a whole. Let's just put this in perspective. Okay, outside of the last TNA broadcast show, shout out to Thea Hell for being included into the Knockouts Television Championship opportunity. At the same time, if TNA is reaching out to Thea Hell for this, why is TNA not reaching out to, why is NXT not reaching out to TNA to have somebody included in a show? Why are we pulling from Evolve instead of pulling from X, Y, and Z TNA? This is why your product has started to feel stale, WWE, because you are not utilizing your partnership efficiently. You rather pull from Evolve, but instead, what is Evolve offering you that TNA is homegrown already giving? That's the thing we need to look at here, because so many good names is in the TNA roster, but yet you don't bring them to your show. Because we got ex WWE guy over here. You have ex WWE talent over here. What's wrong? Why are we not seeing the overall value of these wrestlers and what they have done in their career? Because TKO decided, we don't want to pay X, Y, and Z person, this, that, and the third. Come on now. If we're going to really look at wrestling from a standpoint, and I like to hear people's topic on this, because why are we not giving TNA talent the respect that they deserve and what they built for the business? That's something that is really mind-boggling me, CJ, to a T, that ever since this partnership, I've seen less TNA talent involved in any NXT scenario situation, nor have they been involved in a critical Raw or SmackDown situation. At the same time, TNA is over here building and improving, yet while WWE is failing miserably on getting product. Hold on 1 second, I'll be right back.
Now, going back to this question. With TNA working with NXT and on an OVW, does this make TNA the ultimate melting pot for young talent right now? That's a yes and no question. But before I answer that, I want to give a shout out to Dixie for what she said. She said, give it to CJ, has worked his ass off. I appreciate it, but that's a long road. I'll give Dixie a shout out for that real quick before I answer this question. Now, does this make TNA the ultimate melting pot for young talent? Yes, it does, by working with OVW, not with NXT. If they done it on their own, if TNA pulled out of the TKO scenario and them and OVW worked together, I'd say them two would probably make it. But now seeing them, what WWE is doing with NXT, getting TNA talent to work for them, and vice versa, it's bad business decision on their part. Because I don't really think that TNA and NXT are really caring about the fans, especially, WWE. We see it with the SummerSlam PLE that we're going to discuss this later on the podcast, as well as other things we're going to discuss, especially on our next topic. But what I think with TNA making the ultimate melting pot for young talent right now, I don't think that it's good for business. And the reason why I say this is, I hope I don't get no bad backlash from this when I say this. I think that WWE, when they started working with TKO when they started working with TKO, and also when they started to work with TNA, pulling TNA a little bit closer to the Kool-Aid, eventually, you're going to drink the Kool-Aid and get used to it, and somebody's going to poison that Kool-Aid to where you're basically poisoned and you can't get yourself out of that poison. That's what I'm saying. So, in all generosity here, is I think that WWE needs to get away from TKO, but also TNA getting young talent from OVW. I really believe that if TNA and OVW would work together and get away from WWE, wrestling would be so much better to watch. That's just, my opinion. You guys entitled in the chat to your own opinions and very respect it. Going back to the last question here, and I'm going to try to move this as fast as I can because I know DJ is going to be back in any second, is this next question. Which independent or OVW standout do you want to see make jump to the Thursday Night Impact first? This is a good one because this right here, there's a lot of OVW talent that I feel like that should deserve to go to TNA. I got to meet some of them during, I think it was, in Pikeville when they had the OVW Fight Night pay-per-view. J-Rod definitely deserves it. Definitely Dream Girl. There's Cash Flow, which he's a very damn good wrestler. If you guys never seen Cash Flow, I suggest you guys go check him out. Damn good wrestler, in ring, on the mic. I think he's got a shot. He's also worked with movies with Sylvester Stallone also. Rambo. Some guys remember him as Rambo, but this guy Cash Flow actually got to work a movie with him. Very good movie, by the way. I will say that, 100%. I got to watch the movie. Very good movie. They both done excellent. Any movie that, Sylvester Stallone is in, definitely a good movie. Which independent or OVW standout you want to see to make the big jump? J-Rod is one. Freya the Slayer, Dream Girl, Cash Flow. One of my favorites from OVW. He is the big time star, and when I say big time star, he's one of those that set the standard, and I think he's still in OVW because I've never got to watch OVW because I've been busy, working and doing personal stuff. But right now, I do know that, as far as I know, he might be still in. I don't know. His name is Cal Hero. Another good wrestler in OVW. There's a lot of others too. Cash Daniels, that used to play Kentucky football for Kentucky, he actually is in OVW. That's another good one that I would love to see make it to Impact. There's a lot more that I'm trying to think here that really and truly I love to see happen. But as far as that goes, there's the talent right there I'd love to see making it to Impact for OVW side. The independent side, boy, there's a lot of list of names I'd love to see independent-wise that I think should be in TNA. One of those would be I didn't get to see him as much, but I've got to watch videos of him wrestling. Let me reword that. I didn't get to see him, but I watched videos of him wrestling. If you're going to bring somebody up from independent, Zilla Fatu would be a good choice for Thursday Night Impact. That would be a good choice on that standout. You want to pull somebody from WWE that's been in WWE to bring back for Thursday Night Impact. Rhino, one of my favorites. I actually got to see him. I didn't get the autograph, though, but I actually got to see him in one of the Comic-Cons that we had here in Pikeville. They had Shane Douglas. I'd love to, see Shane Douglas to make even a one-night appearance on Thursday Night Impact. That would be another one I'd love to see. Another one I definitely want to see, but I think he's retired now. I think he hung up the boots, was Sandman. Sandman was, one of my favorites. Far as ECW, the man, he's he's basically swung kendo sticks. And if you guys never seen Appalachian Championship Wrestling ACW on YouTube, I suggest you guys go check it out, especially the one they had in Pikeville. I think it was I don't know what it was called, but it was in Pikeville. It had Shane Douglas in there. It had Shane Douglas as Team Shane Douglas versus Team Wildfire Tommy Rich in an 8-man tag. Very good match. Very good storytelling during that match. Loved both sides of their teams. They did a great job during that. But if I ever find the YouTube and if I ever do an episode 7, I will show you in the comments below, or maybe I even put the link in the comments, below to show you guys the thing they had in Pikeville that had Shane Douglas in the rest of them in there. But getting back on this question, that's who I love to see on Thursday Night Impact. Still waiting on DJ if he comes back. If not, I'm going to move to another question. And then if DJ comes in, he can answer this in the chat. But going back on the topic 2. And I think this is a great question. And this question, for this topic definitely hits the mark here as we move it over to topic 2. Is WWE product under TKO as bad business? And here's the reason why. Here's the first question that I'm going to come up with the questions, but we're going to get into it. We have to address the elephant in the room. The honeymoon phase of TKO merge is officially over. And the locker room and fans base are showing massive cracks. At WrestleMania 42, the live crowd did something unprecedented. Unleash thunderous fuck TKO chants during the post-match broadcast. Fans are furious about being priced out with astronomical ticket prices, caused noticeable drop in physical attendance compared to previous years. On top of that, rumors are swirling of intense locker room frustrations over sudden corporate restructuring and forced wrestler pay cuts, leading to whispered talent wanting to even murmur the word strike. Critics are loudly claiming that treating WWE exactly like the UFC corporate model is active killing the magical of sports entertainment. So the first question that comes to mind for the fans as well as myself is this. And have TKO's aggressive ticket pricing and heavy corporate advertising strip away the organic wrestling fan atmosphere? I will have to say yes on that. Because there are some people that cannot afford $50,000 a year for a WrestleMania ticket. I mean, I can understand that if it's a rich person and they can afford it, yeah, they can afford that. But a poor guy, I think the right thing to do would be income base. So whatever your income is, that's where they need to, fix the pricing to where, as a fan, you can enjoy stuff. You can enjoy a WrestleMania or anything. I think they need to work as well as the rich as well as the poor. I think it should be equal. But, we're talking about WWE, TKO, and their money-hungry leech system that they got is where it's out of control. It's basically they want money this, money that. We're seeing it with this new Ideal stuff they're coming out with. The fan crate pack that they do for AEW and all these other wrestling thing that they have in pro wrestling tees. WWE's taking their Ideal and using it for WWE Club. I mean, this is where I really think that WWE is worrying about more money than the fans. And the reason why I say WWE is worried about more money than the fans, I mean, WrestleMania 42 was a good example of that. There's been some people that wanted to go to WrestleMania, couldn't afford it, had to sit and watch it from the house because the overpriced nostalgia that they used for the prices. I mean, I understand it's the biggest show of the year. I understand that WWE had to literally price things out so they could pay the wrestlers. Understandable. But at the same time, you got to look at it the standpoint. Would you want your wrestlers to get paid, or would you want your fan base to leave and there's no money to pay the wrestlers? That's what you got to look at. You got to balance both systems to where you can create them equally so both sides are happy, the wrestlers and the fans. If the wrestlers ain't happy, the fans ain't going to be happy because the wrestlers is what brings the fans. If there is no fans, there is no show. You gotta like that. But going back on this question on topic 2, I think DJ would definitely love to answer this question. Have TKO's aggressive ticket prices and heavy corporate advertising stripped away the organic fan wrestling atmosphere? And DJ, you got the Mac for this one, brother.
And for that, I wholeheartedly say yes. Their greediness and manipulation have ultimately ruined what we love as wrestling fans. As I can say this right now, as a fan that love to go to wrestling shows and all that, I love the in-house atmosphere that it brings to the table and the excitement, but also at the same time, for you to sit here and think money is the see-all be-all. I mean, come on. Look at what AEW is doing. They're still having affordable ticket pricing and yet still can bring the fan base what they love. TNA does the exact same thing. They bring the fan base in. Look at what you did before the whole outlook of TKO. You were bringing in the fans. You had the structure until you got under TKO. TKO literally said, okay, we're going to say less product, more money consumption, meaning you're being greedy. Look at what you did with WrestleMania 42 and 41. You see the downhill decline that you had in Vegas? Now you want to say you want to bring the show to the mecca of all places, New York City, to Madison Square Garden for WrestleMania 43? After you just said that this upcoming WrestleMania this year was going to be in Saudi Arabia? Yeah. Got some explaining to do, TKO. What do you really want in the long run? Do you want the money or do you want the generosity from the fans? I don't think you want the fan base opinion whatsoever. You don't want the satisfaction of having a happy fan base. Look at the mistakes they're doing. It ultimately shows you don't care about neither side. You just want to see what y'all want to see. Keep in mind, look at the hardcore wrestling fan base. What have they fell back to? The Attitude Era. Wrestling that makes sense. But at the same time, it's starting to feel like y'all don't care about the fan base at all. All you care about is what's going on behind the scenes. You know?
Now we get into the different question. Now, if you're through with answering this one, I'm going to skip over to the next one.
Go for it.
And if the rumors of the roster-wide pay cuts and locker rooms unrest are true, what do you think we are heading towards a major talent exodus to promotions like AEW? I'm going to answer this first, and I'm going to let DJ. I think that if these are true and we get a roster-wide pay cut and locker room unrest, especially with talent frustrated at the pay cuts that has worked their ass off and being treated like UFC fighters when, in all honesty, wrestling and UFC are two different things. Yes, UFC, you could get hurt, you could break a nose, etc. But at the same time, wrestling, you got things like steel chairs that can hurt you, that put you out of, action for a while. Ladders that could put you out of action. I mean, when it comes down to major talent exodus, and, when these wrestlers from WWE sees that they aren't being treated fairly and they look at other options at the table, I really think some of the wrestlers, including Sami Zayn, I think at some point they're going to pretty much pull a Chris Jericho. They're going to say, okay, I'm done with the company. I'm going to AEW, which means if that happens, there's two things at the table that's going to take place. One, WWE is going to lose its fan base, and 2, WWE is going to become the next era of WCW, and we know what happened to WCW exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The tapes, WCW had to shut down because of stuff like this. So WWE is not really, the old saying goes is history repeats itself. So WWE is not paying attention to history, and history's coming back and showing them a lesson that they're going to learn. But that's what I got to say about it. DJ, you got more than welcome. Here's the mic. Go for it.
And here's the thing about it. When you look at what's happening right now, okay, I'm going to put prime example 1. Jordynne Grace, a star in her own aspect, literally paved the way in TNA. Now look at her. Just because she had an injury, but you don't have nothing created for her on the roster, that tells me a lot that TKO is really trying to balance who they feel is worthy and who they feel is not. Another prime example, look at what happened on Saturday Night Main Event. Look at what you did to Bayley. Bayley is going to end up leaving WWE and literally going to the rivals. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like competition is critical in every aspect of wrestling. At the same time, WWE thinks that they're the big dogs and we can do whatever the hell we want to do and we can treat our talent the way we want to treat them. No. Let's be honest. How you're treating your talent is really giving off a very bad vibe to why these talent want to go to other places and feel like they can thrive. Case in point, look at what you did to Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Karrion Kross and Scarlett now known as Killer Kross, is literally doing better outside of your own product. And the fans have been telling you, we want Kross. And y'all didn't give him Kross. Sucks to be you. Like, talent that we love, we want to see them flourish. But under the TKO umbrella, they're not going to flourish.
Now, getting back on that point, DJ, you make a good point. With TKO, especially with the pay cuts and, what we see and what they do in the PLEs, especially, there was one PLE that WWE did and they changed it last minute. I think it was WrestleMania, if I'm not sure. One of the matches of WrestleMania, that maybe it was Backlash. But one of those 2 pay-per-views, they changed the match last sudden and it became a squash match. I do know that. And that's what right there really ticks me off. If you already got something planned ahead for the pay-per-view, just go with it. Don't make last-minute changements or adjustments just because you feel like entitled that maybe it's not going to work out. Maybe you need to take a chance on it. It's kind of like going to a casino. If you put money in one of those slots, what's the probability you're going to walk out with nothing compared to walk out with $100 or $10? $100 to $150 to $500. You're taking a chance. It's probability of chance. So just because you put $100 in a machine doesn't mean you're going to be rich and win $190,000 in one day. In other words, it's chance. That means you may win it, and then again, you may not come out with nothing, and then again, you may come out with probably $10,000, $20,000. If you're lucky. But at the same time, same with the WWE. The worst thing that they have done is partnered or business-wise team with TKO by Vince selling the company, which I think that was the worst decision in our playbook.
Mm-hmm.
selling the company over to TKO, and TKO, the only thing they know how to do is MMA. You basically sold your company to somebody that does MMA that don't have no clue about the wrestling business. There's guys that would love to buy the company off of you. Vince Russo. I guarantee you that man would love to buy WWE out so he could run it in his vision, and I can guarantee you half the wrestlers on WWE side that don't do shit like Logan Paul would get their ass with the big boot around their buttocks and get kicked out for shit. Second one I think would be good to buy WWE out. The man Jim Cornette, and I love and respect Jim Cornette for what he's done for the wrestling business, especially calling out WWE on their bullshit on his podcast. Much respect for you, Jim Cornette, because I love the fact that every time you see a washed down match, you call it like you see it. And your famous quotes is definitely what I like about you, Jim Cornette. You basically say that WWE, if they had a show at a flea market, they couldn't book a goddamn wrestling show in the goddamn flea market. That is the best line I've ever heard a YouTuber say. Like I said, much love and respect for you, Jim Cornette, for what you do. I think you deserve buying WWE out. That's the two people I think right now. And the last but not least, who I really think that really should buy WWE out is Jake the Snake Roberts, and here's why. You guys probably not watched this on Facebook or on his social media apps, which is Twitter and
or Instagram.
He said this, and quote, if he bought WWE out, he would do some roster cleaning, which means guys that didn't know nothing about wrestling would get the boot. Guess what, Logan Paul? You would have been fired on Jake Roberts' show. Sorry. In the words of James Storm, Cowboy James Storm, one of my favorites, sorry, Logan Paul, about your damn luck. Because the fact of the matter is this. If you're in the wrestling business, if you're in a big company such as WWE, TNA, AEW, New Japan Wrestling, and you don't know nothing about pro wrestling, and you are a wrestler, and you go into that company, you're not only disrespecting the indie guys, but how does those legends feel that put in the work? Legends like Stone Cold, legends like Ultimate Warrior, legends like Hulk Hogan, legends like The Barbarian, legends like Ricky Morton, legends like Macho Man Randy Savage, and all. By the way, legends like the last WCW soldier that stood and defended the front, the man they call Sting.
Big facts.
So here's what I'm saying, and I'm going to try to wrap this up before we go on to the next question, before we move on to the next topic is this. I really think that WWE is doing poor executive business decisions, and it's affecting them. Like I'm saying this from being honest and being true. It's affecting them in a big way because now you're getting people that are looking at WWE and they looking at what you're doing and they saying, really, you're really going to go with this. And seeing all this, transpire down to its road, down to its entirety, I believe Chris Jericho said this in one of the AEW episodes. That's bad business decision by bad creative, Junior, and you know it.
And it's a whole fact.
That's facts by Chris Jericho, a former undisputed champion in his own right. That's pretty much beat Stone Cold and The Rock on the same night to win the WWE Championship and the WWE World Championship, combining them to make the undisputed title. That is a man that is well respected in the wrestling business. Even though that I love his band Fozzy, he does a great job with his music, life as a music artist. He is a damn good professional wrestler because he tells it how it is and he don't give a shit about what WWE thinks, about what Paul Levesque thinks. He tells it like it is, and if they like it, good. If they don't, he don't give a crap. That's why I love Chris Jericho. Same reason why I got much respect for Shane Douglas, because if Shane Douglas was right in that era when Triple H decided to do these budget cuts, I guarantee you to this day, Shane Douglas would throw Triple H right in the water and probably give us one of the famous promos that he did with the NWA promo and rewrite it into the new era of wrestling with Triple H and WWE, because they don't know how to do anything. Because the biggest thing that I respect about Kevin Impact's podcast that enlightened me on something, and huge shout out to Kevin Impact if you're listening, brother. Much love and respect for you for everything you do. Me and DJ definitely appreciate you.
Big facts.
The biggest thing that I see with WWE, and Kevin Impact's got it right on the head, is two things. One, money. Money is what's killing WWE right now, because they can't pay their wrestlers. They cut down their not ticket prices, but budget cuts. They cut down, paying the wrestlers. So in other words, if you're getting, let's say $1 million a year, you're probably getting half of that now because of the budget cuts, because TKO wants to pay you cheap. They want you to work cheap, but at the same time, that's more money they can put in their pocket to pay off the debts. Secondly, is what Kevin Impact mentioned on his podcast, is they don't hire people that knows how to do storylines. That is a very good, valuable point from Kevin Impact. We are seeing it right now on television. They are making some fucking Looney Tunes shit. I mean, what the hell is this type of wrestling? I see Porky the Pig on here going, that's all, folks, on the main event. Then we got fucking Bugs Bunny in the fucking corner chewing on a fucking carrot, looking at Triple H saying, "What's up, Doc?" I mean, what the fuck? I mean, I'm just saying it in all generosity, because this shit looks like a cartoon from Looney Tunes. And then we got fucking Sami Zayn over here being Samity Sam, man, I'm the rootinest, tootinest WWE champion. I mean, damn. It seems like we're living in the Looney Tunes era of WWE.
Right.
Now, before we get on the next question, I'm going to put my intake on this. It's not the rumors are not really about the pay cuts in locker room. It's also about who they hire. I kind of feel like that when WWE hired whoever does this creative storyline booking, they did a terrible job at it. We see it with Sami Zayn with the WWE title. We see it with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes storyline. We see it with this Oba Fleming storyline, for God's sake. I mean, Oba Fleming should have went on to face either Roman or Punk. Why? First of all, I just don't get it. Why the fuck would you have this man go after Brock Lesnar when Brock's not even a fucking champion to begin with? Let alone screw the man out of a world championship match, because he could have either beat Roman or Punk and we would have had a new champion in Oba Fleming. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
This is my thing about this whole outlook here, because here's my thoughts on this. Let's put this in perspective here. Now, we all know the winners of the King of the Ring normally go for the championship opportunity. We never seen one championship King of the Ring winner basically forfeit his championship duty for a match against a man that you have a sheer rivalry with. Can somebody in the comments make sense with this? Because it mind boggles me that 90% of the people you'd have as champion that wins King of the Ring normally go for championship opportunities and win. It skyrockets your career. But unfortunately, why would you want to have Oba Femi take on Brock Lesnar in Minnesota at SummerSlam, all because, we don't have nothing creative planned for his title run? I mean, you got so many people in the building that can do a championship opportunity run. And then what's the point of you having Oba Femi doing this when you just had Roman after WrestleMania quote and say, "We'll see how you do during the summer"? Meaning, you were supposed to set up a match with Roman Reigns or CM Punk in general for a championship opportunity for Oba. You just blew that for Brock versus Oba in Hell in a Cell? Nah. Miss me with that one. This is why we see WWE for what it is. The TKO narrative is taking over every bit of storyline. There is no simple thing as long-term booking in TKO's mindset. You ruined the long-term booking because the man that y'all are letting be the one to do it, y'all not letting him do his job, which is Triple H.
Well, here's what I think too, DJ. I really think that not only it's Triple H should be doing it, but they got a lot of legends that's retired working backstage. Undertaker. I mean, hell, I think instead of him being over AAW, let him be over the creative with WWE. Like,
exactly, it's like you're pulling all your big talent to help AAA get all these names could be vital pieces to help the success of WWE.
But
hell, you let Stephanie McMahon be head of the women's division creative and let her turn that women's division around.
Actually, I got to agree with you, but I also got to put two more people that would be good for the women's division. You got Victoria. Lisa Von Marie would be good for, booking decisions by the women.
Agreed.
Trish Stratus. Very good wrestler that deserves to be, head of women's creative. Also, let's talk about she's got legs. Stacy Keibler would I'd love to see her, on television, being like a,
I feel like your big five, if you have the women's creative process, Victoria, like you said, Stephanie, Trish and Lita, and literally Stacy Keibler.
Here would be my big five. I disagree with you on Lita because, I mean, no disrespect, but Stephanie would be one. Trish Stratus would be another. Victoria would be another. Stacy Keibler would be the other. But my last pick is really going to shock you. Now, I do not know if this girl is living today, but I would say the Francine, Shane Douglas's, I guess you could say manager back in the day, Francine, I think she would have been a great storyteller. Hire Francine, even though, yes, she'd been in ECW, but at the same time.
She's still around to this day.
But still, that'd be a good way to put her in. Or, I mean, if you can't get her, Tori Wilson. That's a good one right there off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get into the top five for the man. If Triple H needed help and needed somebody to actually help him with the main shows, here would be my 5 picks for the main shows. Stone Cold Steve Austin, which currently don't have a job with WWE that I know of. He's got TV shows and done his own, I think, Broken Skull Ranch. That would be a good one. Next one on top 2 on my list would be a guy that's currently is pretty much working the indies right now, and he's been in WWE, that I think that he should definitely come back, as a legend status, is the Barbarian. Put him as, a creative guy that knows something about wrestling. Third, I think Ricky Morton, one half of Rock and Roll Express. He would be a damn good storyteller for WWE. Fourth one, and my pick, is a man that literally revolutionized professional wrestling, Jake the Snake Roberts. He's still actively. Get Jake the Snake, and I guarantee you Jake the Snake's going to make these wrestling matches, especially versus TKO's bullshit, he's going to make them look like child's play. In other words, his booking's going to make TKO look like they don't know their shit, which is actually true. And my fifth and final one that I think that needs to be a part of the creative, if they can get him, is, like I said, the Phenom, The Undertaker.
Some pretty good choices there. I want to check the landscape up a little bit here, just so I can 5 good names. But as an overseer to everything, Shane O'Mac will have a pretty good insight with those 5 men as well.
I definitely agree with you on that.
Like, I feel like Shane O'Mac would change the landscape entirely. But like with Shane, you're gonna have that real creative spark that the other 5 can bring them into the table, as well as Triple H's best friend and DX member Shawn Michaels. You got a core group right there that can take this whole narrative and flip it upside down. You can get real wrestling back if you allow these men to do their job. But as long as you have Ari Emanuel and Brian Gertwitz and whoever you got over there, they are trying to sabotage Triple H's creative vision.
So now we're going to move on to the next question. If DJ's gave his, if DJ's done with his, I don't want to like interrupt him, but if you're through with what you got to say,
yep, I'm good.
Now we get on to the last question of this topic on topic 2. Is corporate interference actively watering down Triple H creative decision on Raw and SmackDown? And DJ actually brought a good point about this. I would have to say yes. TKO's interference is basically destroying everything Triple H has got planned or WWE's got planned. But at the same time, they hire their own people that, like I said, don't know nothing about wrestling. They hire a story writer that's from bumfucked Egypt and think that he's gonna, make a good storytelling. And one of the things that Kevin Impact said that made me realize more about WWE and what they're actually doing. They are basically saying, "Oh, this wrestler is the best wrestler in the world. He's done this and done that, but he's not really a good wrestler." I don't know who the wrestler was, but if Kevin Impact can put it in the comments, I can share that thing out real quick. But going back to this question, yes, they are watering down the creative vision for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Not just Raw and SmackDown, and NXT. I really think that if Undertaker would be alongside Shawn Michaels and Triple H and they work together, even The Rock, bring those 4, plus Stone Cold, I think that wrestling would be the biggest, hottest commodity that TKO's got in their hands right now.
But here's the problem with that, right? Understandable. Rock, you're doing movies, cool. I get it. But at the same time, are you going to sit there and be a partner and steer WWE in the right direction? Or are you going to sit there and let TKO ruin what you love so dearly? If you are a part of the board, Rock, you need to make some executive decisions to help the business that you love and built. You can't allow Brian Gertwitz and Ari Emanuel and Dana White to ruin what you love so dearly. There's a reason why the fans are not liking, we have more creative vision for Toxic Attraction, for Toxic whatever the Fatal Influence group with and we don't got nothing for Brian Page. Oh, we got creative vision for Jade Cargill, but we don't have no creative vision for Charlotte Flair or Alexa Bliss.
I mean, here's what I gotta say. They got one of the greatest TNA Women's Knockout champions, Jordynne Grace, and they can't even put her in a storyline And I think Jordynne Grace would be a damn good women's champion if they gave her a chance.
Exactly. And the fact of the matter is, they're saying, oh, we don't have nothing creative for her. Get in the lab and get something creative for her. Even though she's nursing an injury, cool, but get something on the table for a return.
I mean, here's the thing. If you don't have nothing for her, I mean, if she comes right, let's say she comes back to the Rumble. She's one of the entries. Have her win the Royal Rumble. Let her get her shot at Mania. That's how you're going to get the crowd reaction. That's how you're going to get the crowd to literally clap their hands and go, let's go, Jordynne. That's how you're going to get the crowd to be a part of something again, is if you have that creative mindset to put Jordynne Grace as the Women's Rumble winner, let her go on to Mania to win that title. That's how you're going to get wrestling back, is Jordynne Grace for the women's division. Now, the men, there's only one man that I think that will do it. And many people are going to agree to disagree, but I think he would be a great WWE champion or WWE World Champion. And that man is a former TNA World Champion, Joe Hendry. If we had Joe Hendry as champion and Jordynne Grace as women's champion, WWE would be buzzing right now. Fans would get into the show. Fans would literally, it would be so chaotic. Fans would buy tickets. I mean, you wouldn't have to do the ticket price and just leave the tickets as they was when Vince had it, and you would basically have the icing on the cake. But at the same time, we're talking about TKO. We're talking about the leeches here. They want to try to up the prices, saying, oh, this is how we're going to do things. This is how we're going to run the shows. Triple H, I don't like that decision there. Change that decision. This person's going to win over this person. You're killing wrestling just because you think what's good for the fans when you don't realize, one, you've never been in the wrestling business, and two, you're killing Triple H's creative decision, and you're killing the creative decision that the board members has that you could have hired. If they had Undertaker as the head of creative, I guarantee you he would look an example for AAW or AAA, Triple A that he runs. You're seeing what they do in there. If Undertaker had one of the main shows, Raw or SmackDown or NXT, or have Undertaker to do all three, I guarantee you Undertaker would literally book shows and make those shows look like a real wrestling show compared to what you guys do at TKO. Guaranteed.
Look at what he's doing in AAA right now. And he's working alongside Rey Mysterio, who's the main GM.
Now, if me and DJ's answered this, if you answered this, DJ, I don't know if you did or not, but if you did, then we can move on to topic 3, which is going to get right in with a lot of things that I'm saying, but I want to make sure you answered this question before we moved on.
Gotcha.
And the question is corporate influence actively watering down Triple H creative decision on Raw and SmackDown?
My answer is yes. They are ruining his creative vision. But 110% they're ruining his creative vision. It feels like they're sabotaging his creative vision to get him out, to get other people that they want in.
Now
and that's kind of crazy.
Now, if DJ's answered that, we're going to get into what I call the main event topic. And first of all, I want to make sure DJ's done answering that before we get into the main event topic here. So, DJ, we finished with that?
Yep, we good.
All right, so we're going to get on to the main event topic. The failed SummerSlam 2026 match card and ticket slumps. Now we get into the main event topic.
This is where I'm about to let things be known.
This is where I think that if we can get him on, let me see if he's actually on, because I would love to hear a Kevin Impact story on this if I can get him on. If not, it'd be another topic on this, maybe during a.
Because this is my thing as a whole, and I'm going to get into it when we go more in depth with it. It's literally kind of crazy how this NASCAR lineup is so oversaturated and doesn't make any sense.
Now we're going to get on to the main event topic. I just shared it out in JTV, but you know, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about in this main event topic. We're going to talk about the failed SummerSlam match card tickets.
Oh, yeah.
There's also going to be a lot of stuff we talk about, you know, during the WrestleMania and all that. So I'm going to, okay, this thing is not working. It's doing the amount of its own, so bear with me.
Like, I feel like there's so much that we can say before they get it through their thick, greasy head. And it's not about, oh, this over here and this over here. It's all coming down to the greed.
Now, we're going to get on this. Today we're focusing on energy on Massive. We're going to take an hour deep dive into the biggest story dominating the wrestling dirt sheets and social media right now. We're tracking major developing situations at the top industry. The SummerSlam 2026 slum booking crisis and how the effects ripple from WrestleMania 42 and Backlash got us here. Grab your coffee, your cold drink, set your timers for full hour discussions, read it through the breakdown, and let's blow up the comment section for your unfiltered takes. And right here, I hope you guys are ready for this because I'm going to change the main event topic here. I hope you're ready for this one because this is going to be a damn good barn burner.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully you got your snacks, your drinks, and everything ready to roll because this one's about to be a doozy.
We are now, instead of going through what we call a regular main event, this is 1 hour main event for the SummerSlam booking crisis and ticket slumpers, WrestleMania and Backlash talk that we're going to talk about. I feel like this is very important, not only for wrestling fans to express how you guys feel in the comment section or in live chat. You guys have the right to entitle to your own opinions and thoughts. You guys put it in the chat. But for now, we're going to take this up because now we're going to get the reality check here. And we got a lot of questions here. We got 5 questions for this main event talk. But before we get into it, we're going to get in with our first thing, the reality check. This is where the numbers don't lie. We're officially weeks away from WWE's second ever 2-night SummerSlam at massive US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But internally, the alarm bells are ringing. According to the latest data from WrestleTix, ticket disruptions have completely stalled, stirring at roughly 22,780 for night 1 and 22,364 at night 2. For venue, we can scare up to 67,000 fans per night, moving barely 600 to 700 ticket a week at this stage is massive red flag for the stadium show. Industry veterans like Jim Ross have pointed out that the product simply lacks a white-hot attraction right now. While fans are pointing their fingers directly at heavy corporations' hangover from TKO era and creative trajectory that went off the rails over WrestleMania 42 and Backlash. So here's how that whole thing come into play. We're going to talk about how we got here. The road to WrestleMania and 42 Backlash. To understand why fans are hesitant to buy tickets for Minneapolis, we have to look at narrative decisions made earlier this year. WrestleMania 42 hangover. WrestleMania in Las Vegas saw massive financial success, but registered a noticeable dip in physical attendance compared to previous year. Most importantly, it left fans portalized. While Cody Rhodes walked out of Vegas retaining his undisputed title, suddenly aggressive structure changes from TKO corporate merge beginning to leak in presentation. Sterile branding, skyrocket ticket prices, and a feeling that corporate metrics were taking precedence over organic storytelling. The Backlash plot. By the time Backlash rolled around, it creative landscapes felt fractured instead of capitalizing on rising stars. The booking relied heavily on established veterans cutting promos to talk their way into massive title pictures, leading to major structure changes on the road to SummerSlam. Now we get into the breakdown of SummerSlam's match cards. And like I said, I want you guys to express how you feel. This is why we have No Rings, No Rules podcast. You express how you feel, and that's how you feel. That's how we're going to take it. But we ain't going to argue and, be like children here. But first, we're going to get on to the undisputed WWE Championship match. Critics called this card lazy and high predictable, leaving strictly on star power over logical momentum. The undisputed WWE Championship match. CM Punk, the champion, versus Cody Rhodes. Punk returned, replacing Cody in a major segment after Gunther laid Rhodes out and eventually won the undisputed title from Sami Zayn. Now, Cody is chasing the title he lost, but the swap has left fans debating the logic of the line cutting. That is one major factor. Now, this really, I guess you could say, really gets into my head because the two matches I'm going to talk about here should have never happened. It should have been Oba versus Roman Reigns. Here's how WWE wanted it, so we're going to go with their segment, and I'm going to explain why this was not a good decision. Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. It's a cornerstone of modern era square off yet again. It's guaranteed marquee match. Critics argue we've seen variations of the Shield rivalry for decades, offering a little freshness to an anchor of two-night stadium show. Then we get on to Oba Femi versus Brock. This is where the booking gets highly controversial. Oba won the grueling King of the Ring tournament at Night of Champions, guaranteed a world title shot for SummerSlam. Instead of challenging for the gold, Femi bypassed the title scene to finish the trilogy with Brock Lesnar inside Hell in a Cell. Fans are furious that the King of the Ring was awarded essentially minimized to book a heavyweight car crash. I think that WWE should have never gave the storyline to Oba Femi, especially if they wanted him to win, so he could pull a stunt like this, or WWE Creative could pull a stunt like this. I think they should have went on with the title match. I think it would have been great to see Brock Lesnar try to screw Oba. Roman Reigns, it would have been a great storytelling if Brock screwed Oba out of the title, but at the same time, it would be even better if Oba had backup. Let's say Oba called Cody Rhodes or John Cena to help him win the WWE World Championship off of Roman Reigns. That would have been great of storytelling if they decide to do that route. But instead, we're talking about TKO here and how they do things.
And now here's the thing. I'm going to say this right here, right now. Looking at this from a standpoint, if you knew you were pushing over to be King of the Ring, and you had ample opportunities to screw over Femi out of this opportunity to basically set up Brock and him, why didn't you have Brock attack him at King of the Ring at Night of Champions? Why didn't you have Brock screw him at some point throughout this whole process to not get him to this point to be King of the Ring winner? Now, at that same time, you got to ask yourself this question. If you were really setting up Brock and over, why didn't you have some opportunity of interference to hurt his chances in King of the Ring? There's some things that just have not been answered. But you got what you got. Over versus Brock. Kudos to you. But at the same time, I would have rather had the championship opportunity and see Over dominate either a Roman Reigns or a CM Punk.
Now, we get on to the first question here of this. And before we get on to the first question, I kind of feel like that this needs to be talked about too. And I'm going to try to get on with the program here because we got a lot of questions. If DJ's, of course.
Yeah, I'm done with what I had to say there.
With that, now we get on to the first question of this topic. Is SummerSlam ticket slump a result lazy, predictable match card, or is it simply that the ticket prices are too expensive for average family to attend? There's two things to this. And I'm going to go first. I'll let DJ go last, but I think that the ticket prices should be adjustable. I think, as a wrestling fan, they should have looked at this more entirely. I'd say that they should, especially if it's a low income person that, let's say works at Walmart or McDonald's and they can't afford, $52,000 to go to WrestleMania, do it by income base. I guarantee you will get all kinds of fans doing it income base because everybody that, is lower class that works at McDonald's and these restaurants would flood the damn arena. And I guarantee you that you'll have your ticket prices and you wouldn't have to worry about selling shows. But at the same time, you got to look at it too. They have to rent the arenas that they go to. So in other words, so when they schedule for that arena, they have to pay off the venue. They have to pay off their crew. They have to pay off, to stay for 1 or 2 nights at that arena. So in other words, money is a huge issue. I understand the, business aspect of it. But at the same time, think of it as the fans would. I think that if you're going to have a WrestleMania, I think that it should be, if you could do this, I don't know if WWE could do this. Instead of having 1 night at WrestleMania, 2 nights at WrestleMania, have it 1 night, 14 to 16 match card. Let it be like a 5 to 6 hour pay-per-view, something of that nature, so we are not having to go, especially, if you're watching it like on pay-per-view, so you don't have to worry about going, especially if you have to work the next day, you don't have to worry about going back and watching it. You can pick up where you left off. Or if you're in attendance watching WrestleMania, you don't have to buy 2 separate tickets to go watch night 1 and night 2. That's where it really gets into play, because what if you can't afford night 1 ticket? Or let's say you afford night 1 ticket, couldn't afford night 2 ticket. That's where the venues and what I call by the fans, attendance is really setting the low record stages, because WWE is not really putting in a system to where they can pay, for business strategies over these arenas. They are not thinking of what is the affordable cost for these lower class families as well as a higher class, that we can meet both layers, that they can finally meet at an agreement level. But also they have to think on what they're doing. Also, for business perspectives, they got to pay the venues. They got to pay their places that they rent. So let's say if that arena was, let's say, $250,000, they have to come up with a $250,000, or they can't be a part of that. They can't be a part of that arena. They have to pay license. I don't know if you guys understand this, but they have to pay license for a booker, which means they got to make sure that they have license under that state. Let's say if it was, for example, Las Vegas, Nevada, they would have to pay the state. They have to get stated that they are a booker in that state of license, which is a promoter's license, and they have to have insurance. So if somebody gets hurt in that ring, that they are not liable for a lawsuit. Let me clarify that so you guys can be knowledgeable, because when I was working and still working with these guys, not WWE, but the guys that I'm working with now, training as a wrestler, one of my good friends taught me a valuable lesson about the business. He said, if you ever own the business, you got to think about it this way. You got to think about how you're going to pay for the booking license, how you're going to pay for the insurance. You got to have insurance before you can have a show. If insurance is not in there, so if you have a show and don't have insurance, let's say if a fan decides to jump in the ring and you don't have insurance, that is a lawsuit sitting right there waiting to happen on you. So in other words, you got to have a structure saying you got insurance to cover you in case a fan jumps in. That way they save their ass from a lawsuit, as well as a fan will get in trouble for jumping in the arena without having a wrestling license. So that's another thing that you got to think of also during this, to give you a little education on stuff. Also about this, going back on the, venue and paying for stuff for ticket prices, I really think that they should do this. This is my intake. A lot of people is going to get mad on what I think, but this is what I think, and I'm not doing it because what somebody else thinks. I think that they need to make a income-based thing to where it meets not only the higher class but lower class, meet in the middle. And especially, if it's front row, do something, especially like a bigger show like WrestleMania. I think they need to do to where it meets criteria level, that it pays for the wrestlers, the venues, all the stuff they need to pay for, and as well as paying for that in general to go. Now, I will say this also. There is one thing that I think WWE needs to do. We all can agree on it or disagree on it, whatever the case may be. They need to get away from TKO. That is their major factor.
Big facts.
Killing the product, killing storylines, and making fans very angry, where you have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, types of social media out there that is making fans angry because of the facts they can't express how they feel, because WWE is listening to TKO more than their fan base, is what I'm trying to say. But DJ, you got the floor on this question, and the question is the SummerSlam ticket slump a result of lazy, predictable match card, or is it simply that the tickets are too expensive for the average family to attend?
I'm going to break this down in two parts, okay? As far as the ticket pricing goes, it is very expensive for families to come to these events. Don't get me wrong. Trust me when I say it. I've tried to get tickets to the show coming in Buffalo, and literally it's the same outlook. Don't get me wrong. I'm mad about it as well as most fans are. But at the same time, learn how to be affordable with certain things. Try to implement a system to where tickets can be affordable for low-income families. And like you said, everything you said hit on it. But at the same time, it's the fact of, will TKO break their system? It's like, you got to bend but don't break system. You think just because you're getting the money obviously means that everything is supposed to be entitled to you. No, everything is not entitled. At the same time, looking at the match card, that match card is so terrible. And I have my gripes and grudges with it as well. Like, for example, the whole Over and Brock match doesn't make any sense. The whole Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns match doesn't make sense. Damn near CM Punk and Cody, that doesn't make any damn sense. After what you done did to Sami Zayn is beyond me. Having a man hold the WWE Championship for 9 days. 9 days. You say that's respectful? Nah. I call that a mediocre run. You didn't give this man the opportunity that he needed. At the same time, TKO, you are the sole reason why the fan base is going at you the way that they are. You're killing WWE. You are killing the product we love. The place that we value the most. And you're turning it into a shit show. Get your head out of your asses and wise up to what the fan base wants. And that's all I'm going to have to say about that.
Now, since DJ answered that question, this is a huge question too. Does it bother you that megastars can just cut the line for world titles while tournament winners like Oba, Fleming get pushed to the side? Yes, this actually does bother me because of the creative processing. And what I talk about creative processing is definitely what I'm trying to say is creative bookings, creative decisions behind the scenes. Whoever came up with a storyline, first of all, definitely got it out of a Cracker Jack box. Second of all, Oba Fleming should have never faced Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. It should have been Oba Fleming versus Roman Reigns for the world title, or Oba Fleming versus CM Punk for the WWE title. That's what it should have been. Putting him in a match with Brock Lesnar and especially making him decline that King of the Ring, it made no sense. It made you guys look like the stupidest bookers in history, and I'm being real honest.
That's dead facts. I'm still shocked and mind blown at that decision as well, because let's keep it a buck here. How many times are you going to have a golden opportunity like this to have a man of Oba Fleming's stature coming out of NXT, dominating NXT the way that he did, winning the championships the way that he did in NXT, to have him come up to the main roster and ultimately his first order of business is having a feud with Brock Lesnar? Hello. Let's be real here. How many times are you going to sit there and have a man that has been built like Oba Fleming and you ultimately ruin his spotlight with Brock Lesnar? What's so special about Brock Lesnar? I don't get it. But at the same time, you're literally letting this man do anything in the business. But unfortunately, you don't give Oba the opportunity he deserves. That kind of shakes my scratch. I'm stomped on that. CJ?
I definitely agree with you. But what do you think about that question? Does it bother you that megastars can just cut in the line for world titles while tournament winners like Oba gets pushed to the side? What are your thoughts about that, DJ?
I feel like that is a huge no. That is like megastars cutting in line are literally what's killing everything about what we love with wrestling. Megastars cutting the line are literally the prime factor to everything. And this is why I'm saying that, because why do we need guys like Brock Lesnar or any big name athlete cutting in line over guys who busted their ass to get there?
Now, the question, that I'm kind of curious about, I like to know who really wrote that storyline. Was it TKO? Was it creative? Was it Triple H? I mean, that's what really gets to me, DJ. I don't know about that question to you, but that's really the question to me. And you guys actually put in the comments who you think it is.
And I feel like this is the thing. The long-term booking of Triple H got very in the way of that situation, because I feel like that was a TKO move. TKO literally ruined the whole atmosphere of Oba winning King of the Ring. Oh, they know he was going to win over Brock, or over CM Punk or Roman Reigns. But at the same time, you losing that just because you lost the momentum with the long-term booking. And that long-term booking should be the focal point. But the reason why it's not the focal point is because you got the situation of TKO. Oh, we need Brock Lesnar involved. We're in his hometown in Minnesota. This, that, and the third. We need to set up the rematch between these two. It's 1-1. Like, nobody cares if it's 1-1. Everybody want to see Oba be more successful than him being a failure to poor management and booking. I'm sorry.
Now,
poor management.
If you're through with that question, DJ, I want to move on to the
Go
next
for it.
part. This question is very huge for the last topic as we get on for the questions for the fans and us. But how would you fix this card right now to save SummerSlam for being a complete bust?
Here's how I would fix it. Cancel this god-awful Fatal 5-Way women's interim title match. Literally, let's put in that place Jade versus Charlotte Flair. Let them have their little match and keep it moving. Then, let's save value here. Roman, Seth Rollins. Drop that to the curb. Let's interject over to that and really let's put Oba in that situation to win the championship. Because there's no need of him having his match with Brock Lesnar. And that's how I would fix SummerSlam. Like, not to mention, that's only select few things I would do to fix SummerSlam.
Now, I will say this. With this question, there's a lot of things I would do to fix SummerSlam. One is hire me a better creative team that knows how to do the storyline and creative processing of, booking, of telling stories, etc. Undertaker would be a great one for the main roster to move that navigation. I would redo two things. One, like I said, hire a better creative designer, and two, get away from TKO. That would be my two things of how do
I would agree with those two wholeheartedly.
Save SummerSlam. Get away from TKO. Even though that you're in contract with him saying, I don't think this is going to work out, and even if you had to pay him WWE, pay him. You got the money, pay him. Say fuck him. Go on to your next thing. And then when it's all said and done, you can bring back the WWE what we all once loved. That's how you fix that. But that's what I got to say about that question. I'm pretty sure DJ gave his answers before we move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't. Now we get on to the question to the fans and us. Let's talk this out. Now here's the important question. The first question of this is in the comments. I put this. This is a ticket slump. With the ticket sales slunk under 25,000 per night for a 70,000 seat stadium, do you blame the slow movement of TKO's aggressive ticket pricing, the geographical location of Memphis, or fan apathy towards the current product? I would have to say both. I would have to say both. The reasons why is because TKO, first of all, with their aggressive ticket prices, for their aggressive last-minute changes to a pay-per-view show, especially, we saw it with Liv Morgan's squash over Io Sky. We saw this with Sami Zayn over the WWE title on SmackDown, giving it to CM Punk, even though I love CM Punk in a way, but I don't think that right now he needs to be champion. Getting back on topic here, I really think that WWE needs to literally look at this at a different standpoint. Maybe you need to fix yourself and also the creative team. Definitely get away from TKO. That is your main, TKO is just literally killing your product. I'm just going to say that cold-heartedly. And the thing that I love about this is not only the TKO part of it, but I really think that Triple H, being a veteran that he is in the business, I really think that Triple H needs to stand up to these people and put his foot down and say, no, I'm not going to do this. Even though that you're my boss, I think this is the route we need to go. He needs to actually have a backbone for not only the wrestlers behind the curtain, but also for us fans. Because here's the thing that I'm going to say here on the podcast is, if you are a leader in that caliber position of head of creative, and you have, done that for, 5 to 6 years going on, somewhere around that route, and you still don't have the capacity to think or the backbone to stand up for the product which you was a part of, that you done as a wrestler and you literally had to be a part of, I really think that it goes to show that maybe people, you can see, what I'm trying to say is, you can see how people change, especially when they get positions like this, because it goes to their head. I really think, going on this question here, with the ticket prices stuck under 25,000 per night, I actually blame more TKO than I do the fans. But at the same time, I agree with the fans. The fans are literally have a right to be mad at the product. I agree with the fans on that. That's why I said both, because their main thing is 3 letters, TKO. They get rid of TKO and put people that are qualified for each position. And what I mean by that is creative storytelling. The right head honcho, which means somebody that's going to lead by an example and have a backbone to stand up to people that don't even really have the mental capacity of running a show, and they all about it for the money and become leeches. I think that's the problem. And that's what I'm going to say on it. But DJ, I'm going to let you have this question if you're still in the booth here. But if not, we're going to turn it over. But that's what I think on this ticket slump thing. And DJ, you got more than welcome to say in the chat, if you are listening in the chat. But right now, I mean, you look at this, $25,000 per night, and, it's a $70,000 seat stadium. That's where your problem is. That's where the problem lies. You ain't having enough people selling those seats, and it becomes a problem when you don't have enough people selling those seats. Take, for example, the $25,000 fans per night on a $70,000 stadium. 25,000 people in that stadium. That right there is, I would say, not good not good far as seating wise, because especially, the level that WWE is on, being the bigger stage in this, they should have automatically sold the $70,000 seat stadium. No questions asked. Now, if it had been like a newer company starting out, yeah, I can see the problems because now they're getting their name out. Now they have to, build from scratch working with local talent. I get that. I understand that. But we're talking about WWE here. WWE has led its whole product to TKO, whatever TKO tells them to do, and they're going to pull from that card. That right there is what I'm saying that's literally killing the product. They're not listening to us fans. They went away with the fan error. They went with what TKO has for money. It's all about money to them. They don't care about us. They don't really care about how we feel. They don't even care about what we do in our daily lives to earn that money. The only thing they care about is the money that we give them and invest. And the only thing that we got to do to stop it is two things. We can continue to watch the product, continue supporting, or we could put our foot down, boycott it, and say, listen, until you meet our demands as fans and our demands as prices, we ain't going to watch the product no more. We're not going to give the money. We're putting a stop to the money. And when you put a stop to that money, I guarantee you those big head poncho people that in TKO, they will listen. Guarantee you they will listen. Because they know that if you take that money away, boy, that slaps that hand right there. That lets them know they made a boo-boo. So in other words, that's what I'm saying about that. Getting back on the King of the Ring part, there's a question of King of the Ring that I'm going to go with next. And this right here hits so many levels. And I'm going to put it here in the chat because it's not letting me do it on this other thing. So the comment section. I want you guys to let me know what you think about the WWE creative decision with this one. The King of the Ring problem. Does it hurt the prestige King of the Ring tournament and the winner, Oba Femi, completely bypassing his guaranteed world title shot just to feud with a part-time Brock Lesnar inside Hell in a Cell? Yes. I think that hurts the tournament as well as, the King of the Ring winners before that, like Stone Cold and, a lot of other greats, that's won the King of the Ring. And here's the reason why that I say that. Is because, King of the Ring history, Brock Lesnar, Stone Cold, Batista, Triple H, the list goes on and on of the King of the Ring winners, Booker T. You take a look at those winners, and when you see something like this, and if you won the King of the Ring tournament, like Booker T, Stone Cold, Batista, Brock Lesnar, you take a look at these guys that's won King of the Ring, that's already got their title shots by winning King of the Ring, and you look at it, what WWE's doing. To me, that's a kind of slap in the face because you build something that is definitely a history-making match and you turned it into like it don't mean anything. Like that right there really grinds my gears. And to me, that's disrespect to every legend that's been a part of the King of the Ring tournament. Here's the reason why that I say this. And a lot of people is going to give me backlash for it. It's probably going to hit me hard because they don't like the truth to things. When you disrespect the King of the Ring legacy, when you decided to, write the storyline to let Oba Femi bypass the guaranteed world title match just to feud with Brock, what was the point of Oba Femi winning the King of the Ring in the first place? If you know that you was going to take this route, why wouldn't you let Jey Uso beat Oba Femi? That way you would have had Oba versus Brock. That would be a way for creative to do. Then next year's King of the Ring, you could have Oba winning it, going to face the champion. But instead, you chose to literally have him bypass the world title shot just to feud with Brock Lesnar, which made no complete sense after all. That is what grinds my gears to this day about TKO. They don't care about us. They only care about money. And Broski made a good point on this. TKO doesn't deserve our time and money. That's a shout out right there. That is the reason why that me and Broski can agree on things, because TKO don't deserve our time and money, especially with that statement right there. Huge shout out to Broski for putting that in there. That took a lot of balls to do. Huge shout out to that. But now, getting back onto our next thing, we're going to go to the Backlash and Echo from the WrestleMania part. This is going to be something to tune in because I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff that I've seen, watching WrestleMania, watching Backlash, and I really think that this really hits home, especially with the WrestleMania 42 thing that they done. But WrestleMania and Backlash Echo. Do you feel like creative magic under Triple H has actively watered down by TKO corporate directives since WrestleMania 42? I'll say yes to that. Because TKO, we could have had a better WrestleMania. In my opinion, we could have had a better WrestleMania, especially, John Cena. John Cena should have come to this last WrestleMania. We should have had a dream match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and John Cena. I would have loved to see the dream match. I would personally love to see The Rock versus AJ Styles. Two of the dream matches that I would love to see. But at the same time, you got to think about TKO. They don't appreciate the fans. They don't appreciate loyalty. They appreciate the money rather than loyalty. That's the truth. They don't appreciate a damn thing we do as fans. They don't appreciate anything except for what's in our pockets. That's the truth. Get mad, get mad. There's a thing that we say on Tight Nation Alliance. Here's an issue. You need a tissue. That's how we are going to fix that question right there. Now, question 4, should WWE completely abandon the 2-night formula for the events other than WrestleMania? Or is this Pacific match card not strong enough to carry 2 separate nights? Here's what I think. The only time that they should have a 2-night event is either three of the big fours: SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. That's it for the 2-night event thing. Those 4 shows should have 2-night events. Now, I will say this. I don't think they should completely abandon the 2-night formula, especially if they had better creative writers. And Broski put up a good point here that I'm going to share out here. To be honest, I give the company to either back Vince McMahon or H, or co-ownership to Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman, or at least give it to Goldberg or some sort of OGs like The Undertaker, Rey Mysterio, etc. I completely agree with that, because if you think about it, when Paul Heyman ran ECW, guys, this is a true statement about this. When Paul Heyman was the owner of ECW, he put ECW on the map. So if Paul Heyman gets WWE, I guarantee you this would be the new ECW heading forward to the direction. I definitely agree with Broski's statement there. Now we're going to go to the creative fix. And this is our last question before I close the podcast down. Now we get on to bigger and better things. And this is the question in the chat. Your creative fix, if you were booking the show right now, what would you restructure the CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins title scene to completely turn the hype around? Me, if I was booking a show, I would literally have CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes versus Oba Femi. Here's the reason why that I say that. Oba deserves a title match. He's won King of the Ring. Why not slide him in last minute, let him win the WWE Undisputed title to really get the crowd going? Now, not only has he had a match with Brock Lesnar, but now he's beat Cody Rhodes and CM Punk to be the WWE champion. You want to talk about the atmosphere in that arena when Oba wins the title off of Cody or off of Punk and beats Cody Rhodes and Punk for the WWE title? I mean, I can understand, here's another good one. Or let him go for Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, make it a triple threat match. let Oba Fuming beat Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Now, there is a thing that Seth Rollins did say on Raw, if you guys didn't catch it. We may be the guys, you know, he said this as the Shield, that when he was a part of the Shield, they was the guys to end the errors. But Seth Rollins did say that there is someone going to be like us that's coming that could end our error. Which means, what if WWE switches it around and adds Oba Fuming last minute? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying, what if? If it does, then maybe that can save SummerSlam right there. But if it don't, then I'm really questioning their booking decisions. Because Oba deserves that title match. Nobody else but Oba deserves that title match because he's won the King of the Ring. But I will say this. Before we end this 2-hour show of this podcast, this right here, I would say my creative fix to this before I end the podcast is this. Roman Reigns defends the World Heavyweight Championship against Seth Rollins and have it to where Oba Fuming is that mystery guy that comes in, beats Roman, beats Seth Rollins, Oba's the new world champion. That's what I have to say here on No Rings, No Rules podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening in, tuning in, being a part of the talk and of the discussions. And we will see you guys on episode 6.